Now we're going to hear from Susan Nyabena. She's from Kenya. She's founder of Gender Inc. And is a youth activist and blogger. We've heard from some women that if you're in a women's rights organization in Africa, so we heard from a woman in Nigeria recently, and she was saying that there's a bit of pressure from international funders that if you're a women's rights organization, that you should now start to accept their new definition of women as being anybody who thinks they're a woman. Do you think that's happening at all in Kenya?
Oh yes, it is actually, and I would say the pressure do come with the donor funds, especially maybe NGOs and CBOs that are trying to fight or have the rights of women, the vulnerable, be recognized. There is always a catch to it. It's like, okay, if you're funding you have to have a segment for the LGBTQI community. Now the issue is, as much as the organizations would want maybe some of them to support the LGBTQI community, when you register your organization, the government is not going to register you as an LGBTQI organization, because to them, if we are putting it on a legal aspect, that is how, if you're supposed to register your organization legally, that those particular, let's say if you're a CBO, community-based organization, you need to state your jurisdiction, you need to be specific with your target audience. So when you talk about your target audience being LGBTQI, there is nowhere in our legal framework that talks about LGBTQI. So basically it becomes null and void. So maybe some of them, what they do have the funds. They will not categorically state that this is what they're going to do with it. So maybe when they're doing implementation, let's say if they're having workshops or trainings, they will have members or groups of LGBTQI community attending the sessions. And, they will have this participant form signing and things like that, or they will do a recording. So they'll be able to send back a report. But on a legal aspect, no. And they do, if, let's say you get caught, let me put in quote unquote, by the police, either if you come out and say, either I'm part of LGBTQI or I'm trying to fight for the gender identity issue and stuff, you can be prosecuted. It is stated in our penal code, it is stated in the constitution. So it is not something that people just come out and talk about it. But in 2019, there was a campaign. They actually wanted to be recognized, like the gender identity, the all aspect of sexual orientation, and actually have gender identity and sexual orientation defined in our legal documents. So they pushed through it. They had campaigns, they had protests, but the final verdict by the judge, he said that gender identity or sexual orientation is a non-issue to Kenyan, especially that we are African. Our cultures do not recognize or do not relate to anything regarding sexual orientation. So it flopped and they were taken aback. So there are rumors that they're saying they're still coming back, that they're going to appeal, but that is yet to be seen, like what they're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, that's really interesting. And it sounds as if very much the international NGOs or community-based organizations, the funders are sort of trying to be progressive in terms of lesbian and gay work, and then joining it together or conflating it with the trans, the gender identity, which that's what we're, Women's Human Rights Campaign, are worried about, that joining together. So we're very positive about people being lesbian and gay and bisexual, but we're more concerned about the problems with men saying that they're women and then being able to get into women's shelters and get, be elected as women. But can we go on to the next question, which is, what affects women's lives in general in your country, and what's your government, the government of Kenya, like on women's rights issues?
Okay, from what you said, I think I might have maybe missed on that, or maybe did not talk about that, because men cannot actually come out and, say that they feel, or they are women and they're able to get those services. No, it's not allowed. We don't even have gender neutral washrooms or services or public amenities. It's either you're male or you're female. And for those male who say they feel like within they are female, they actually get discriminated upon. Sometimes, there are issues of rape, there are issues of being, physically harassed and situations like that. So everybody is scared to come out. So it's like, basically it's a silent issue.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, and then on women's issues,
Yes, on women's issues, being Africa, our first issue is cultural. Zoo has actually talked about FGM. It's something that has been there with us for a long time. And in 2011, we actually managed to have an act that criminalized the practicing of FGM. But later, I think a year or two after, there is a lady, a doctor actually, she came and she said that it is not right. We are infringing the rights of those people who enjoy or respect or admire the FGM. So when the government criminalizes FGM, we are trying to infringe the rights of those people who actually identify themselves by going through the act. So she wanted that FGM be put for people who are from 18. So basically, for our country, the adult age is like when you're 18, you're an adult. So she said that the FGM practice should be put at the age of 18. So if you're 18, you can decide if you want to undergo FGM or not. So basically, it's like it turned the whole issue around, and it was interesting considering that it was being championed by a woman. And yet we say that FGM is actually fueled by patriarchy. So that was really a setback for us. But then again, as much as the act was put there and they tried to encourage whistleblowers, so we could be able to, the government would know when the incidences are happening, because it's like a cultural ceremony. They will plan for it, they will have gatherings, and people will be dancing and enjoying. So they'll find a new way. So it's like FGM got medicalized. So they would do it in town. They wouldn't even have to travel to their villages. They would just do it in town. They have nurses and doctors who help with that. So they're saying that since they say the cultural part, when you go to the village, the ones who do the act, they're not maybe aware, or they're not well trained. They don't consider the hygiene part. So if they use the doctors and the nurses, then it means they consider all the aspect of medicine and ensure that it is safe. And so we had quite a success after the act came in, but now when we started medicalizing it, we went a little bit low. So we also have issues of early marriages. It's still happening. And this also, we had another setback with it, because there's a time our parliament decided they want to reduce the consent age of sex to 16. It's at 18, so they want to reduce it to 16. So basically, when you're 16, you can decide if you can consent to sex. Bringing it down to 16, consenting into sex also encourages early marriages. So, with teenagers and the emotions and hormones, definitely you might be in love, so to say. And before you realize, we actually have an increase in teenage pregnancies. And the issue was, if we just allow them, to reduce the consent age, so they will be able to enjoy and be free with whatever they want to do. But it is not the case, because we are yet to even have comprehensive sexual education in our curriculum. So it beats the logic that you cannot have comprehensive sexual education in the curriculum, yet you want to reduce the age of consent. So what are they going to be doing if they do not have any knowledge on how to, handle the whole issues of sexual and reproductive health? And then we have issues of, child prostitution that actually, it's like, it's like a silent, not really a silent issue, but it is not really so much investigated because it's done by cartels. So anybody who is trying to get information or, bring to light the perpetrators, they either they vanish, or we just don't hear from them anymore. And we had a case of a particular social worker who was really championing for the rights of the children, because, they get what will happen, let's say you're in Nairobi, they would kidnap your daughter from Nairobi, and then where they will take her for child prostitution is like on the western side of Kenya, or maybe towards, Ugandan side. So it's not basically that it will be within the city, and then they will take children from the other side of the country. So it is like they're moving the children around. So even before you start to think that, okay, this is the direction the child might go, basically you would look around where you live, but by that time the child is far gone. And when this social worker brought it to light, 2 days later, she was found dead. So everybody again shied off from the whole issue of championing for, girls rights, girls education, and things like that. So the other thing we do have, and right now that our major issue, I think this is what I would have started with, is gender-based violence. And with COVID-19, with the lockdown, people lost their jobs. We've struggled economically. I think everyone in the country has been affected. We have an increase of gender-based violence. And then it reached a point where it's like a gender war. It is like men versus women. Nobody's actually looking at gender-based violence as a violation of human rights and tackling it as a whole. We are like, it's either men or women. And there was one incident of a lady who apparently met a guy online, and they had a conversation, and she decided to meet the guy at his office. So it was like it was a tall building, I suppose, but they met at 12th floor. So whatever happened, whatever transpired, it's like all did not go well. So the guy pushed the lady out of the building from 12th floor. So, she got, thank God, she's still alive. She got, medical care and everything. But in the end of the process, she's now a person living with disability. So there's a radio station, the host, they were men. So they decided to talk about this issue, and they just laughed about it. And they say, oh, women, why are you being so loose? Why are you being so cheap? You can play hard to get. It's not that you just go and see every man and look at her. She's now disabled. She cannot do any, it became a whole issue. And people on social media actually started a campaign that this radio host should lose their contract or their jobs. And which actually happened, and they lost their job. They're no longer in host to this radio station. But what later happened is that it shifted the attention from tackling the issues of gender-based violence to the issue of it is men versus women. So the men are saying, okay, women, if everything we do, you're going to be telling on us, you're going to be telling our bosses, then we are going to see how you live. It's like, women without us, you're always asking for money. And so it shifted the whole conversation. And this is actually, I would say it's a national pandemic. GBV is in Kenya. And that is just on the physical aspect. We have the issues of rape. We have the issues of cyberbullying, just to mention a few.